Thanks for listening to Deep Thoughts, Deeper Talks, episode numero uno. In this episode, I'll be talking to a good friend. I'll be addressing as Mr. M for privacy purposes. In this episode, I'll be talking to Mr. M about Hinduism, what it's like being a Brahman priest, and much more. Hope you enjoy. Mr. M, thank you so much for joining me. How's it going?
Not bad. How you doing? Do I say your government and everything, or...
whatever you want.
All right, Mr. J. Hampton Robinson.
Wow. Okay, you said the entire thing. You were not exaggerating. All right, that's fine. Not going to cut that out at all. All right. So I was thinking we start off the conversation with you just telling us a bit about you and who you are, and how we know each other.
Sure. I'm a brown dude. Born in Brooklyn. I was raised there until I was like 13. Moved to Queens, and that's where I met you. When I started living in Queens, started going to high school. We met in high school. We attended the same high school.
Yep.
We became friends. You were a year ahead of me. But we lived in the same area, so we used to walk together to school and all kinds of shit, which is actually so in New York. I don't know if people outside of New York knows this. I know people outside New York does not know this. At least in the states where public transportation is not big, you get a Metro card to go to school. If you live, I think it was more than 2 or 3 miles away from the school.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, something like that. And you get 2 stops to you get one stop and then a transfer immediately to get to school.
Yeah.
And then yeah, that's in the morning, and then you get another stop and then another transfer to go somewhere else. So what J-Rob over here and myself used to do was we used to be like, oh, we want to go out after school. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk the 7 miles or something to school.
No exaggeration.
This is not a lie. We would walk 7 miles. I would bring a bagel, and this motherfucker would never eat breakfast. I would have to rip half my bagel and give it to him. And my fat ass loves to eat. And yeah, he's over here like, I was like, did you eat? He's like, nah, bro. I'm like, fuck, gotta give this dude half my bagel. So I give him half my bagel. We walk the 7 miles, get to school. We could go out and then go home using the one stop and the one transfer. So yeah, that's how we met. That's how we know each other. I think that's not the whole story, but that's
I think that's a pretty decent synopsis.
Yeah,
that was pretty great. So, Mr. M, now can you elaborate a bit more in regards to what you do, like what your profession is, and what you also do outside of that, and just explain to the audience a little bit about where you are in your caste system, how that works, and everything.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. J. Hampton here alluded to some of that. I mentioned being a brown dude. I'm not the Muslim brown dude. I'm the Hindu brown dude. And I first of all, in terms of a profession, Julie and I also went to the same college, so we're pretty good friends. Went to the same high school, walked together almost every day, and we went to the same college. But I studied engineering, and honestly, I don't know what the fuck he studied. So I became an engineer, moved out of state, and I'm not gonna say which state, but move out of the state. Outside of that, my family has always been a family of Hindu priests. In the caste system, they're called Brahmins, and that to some people that doesn't mean much, but to my family, that means that we are Hindu priests. We will act like that. We will learn things from religious texts that we're supposed to. Um, and apparently, to my parents and my uncles, my dad and my uncles, that means that they're going to force their sons and their daughters to do the same thing. So that's
So,
so.
so the Brahmin thing, it's applicable to all genders.
Um, so yeah, you're a Brahmin, whether you're a male or a female. Um,
Okay.
you being a priest, though, and we say priest, it's a rough translation. Actually, I believe in Catholicism. Everyone in the Western world is used to a priest being, oh, he's a dude, doesn't have a wife, doesn't have kids, stuff like that.
Right.
Lives alone. He works for the church. He's a religious guy. Actually, in Catholicism, it used to be that a priest would have a wife, have kids, but the church couldn't support that any longer. So they made it so that priests had to be single. So
So
it
it
is
was
a.
more of a financial thing?
I don't know if it was financial. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty much talking shit. Real talk. I'm talking shit right now. At least on Catholicism. But that's.
A-okay. Shout out to all our Catholics listening.
So but anyways, to we call it pundit. Pundit means the knowledgeable one. And to be a pundit, you more or less have to be should be a male, from what I've seen. I don't want to put a label on it and say yes, you must be. Nothing I've read has said such, but more or less, you have to be male.
Okay. Very cool. And what is it like being a Hindu priest? What does it encompass as far as responsibilities go?
So there are a couple things. The uh, I start with me being a fat guy. The biggest thing is a diet. So that's when you're a religious Hindu, you don't eat meat, fish, or eggs, but you tend to eat dairy. You're okay with honey. You're basically a vegan that eats dairy and honey. And that's the brown person diet, essentially. It's a religious Hindu person diet, right?
Right.
And that's one thing. As a Hindu priest, you pretty much have to be on that diet. Since you're born, all your family's on that diet, which it's not a big deal because I've never eaten meat or anything like that. So and you could attest to that.
Yeah, and you don't drink either, right?
Don't drink, don't eat meat,
Yeah.
don't smoke, don't do drugs. I and more than that, I try to pray at least once a day. What we're supposed to do is pray 3 times a day as Brahmins, and to do our duty, and we'll do special prayers 3 times a day. But this was the case when being a Brahmin, being a pundit was your whole job. Not you're an engineer and you're a Brahmin on the side, or
Right,
you're a
right.
Brahmin who happens to be an engineer, or whatever the case is.
Interesting. And in regards to so there's a lot to unpack there.
Hmm.
One thing I want to call out that I find funny personally. I remember there was one time in college, you probably don't remember this, but there was one time where we were having a conversation, and I think I was like in this like multiple sentences that I said to you, I was talking about like getting drunk and being hungover and about like food that I ate, and you were like, I cannot relate to any of the things that you said because I don't drink, I don't eat meat, I don't do drugs. You're like, I just like none of these things make any sense to me because in my world they don't like it doesn't exist. So I found that funny, and interesting. I think that the other thing that you were mentioning in regards to prayer. So when you do a prayer, because like it's something like even me, like someone who, identify, I'd say as I guess Christian, like non-denominational, and like when I do a prayer, I feel like it's pretty basic.
Hmm.
It takes me like maybe like what, maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes at best. Like what encompasses like a true prayer in your opinion, like from your perspective as a Hindu, or like in general, just a prayer, no matter what the faith is.
So yeah, I think less as a Hindu, no matter what the faith is, prayer is it means to praise, in my opinion. Um, Now, some people may pray and they go, they kneel down and be like, God, been a hard day today. Um, I did this thing. I need money. I tried hard. My cat's sick. I lost my job. Blah blah blah. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's about them.
That ain't a prayer, dude. In my opinion, it must be a praise. So in how we pray as Hindus is and there's different interpretations of this. I'll say how I consider a prayer in terms of saying actual prayer. Is you say we say in Sanskrit, which is ancient language, and the reason it says in Sanskrit is according to most people and things I've read is that it's the language itself is important because it has certain vibrations, the certain letters, how you say the certain words. So we'll say Om Namaha Shivaya. That is a simple prayer. That's one prayer, right? That's an example of a prayer. Om, which everyone says when you go to yoga and stuff, everyone goes Om and pronounce it however they want to pronounce it and all of that. And
Right.
they'll meditate with that sound and all that stuff. But what does it mean? Om refers to an unborn God. So and we could get into this defining what's God and blah blah blah, which gets pretty heavy and complicated if you want. But the
Hey, well, this is deep thoughts, deeper talk. So get deep.
all right. I'm trying not to say that's what she said,
Oh boy.
but the yeah. So
Oh boy.
back to God.
Oh man.
So yeah, there's when we referred to Om, we referred to the unborn God, and when we say Namaha, it means to bow in Sanskrit. When we say Shivaya, where Shiv means the light, and Aya in Sanskrit means you are. So we're saying Om, we're saying God, you are the light. We bow to you, and that's a prayer. Why is that a prayer? We say the first thing that came out was Shiv, was the light. You say you being Christians say it. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. That was the first thing that ever came, right? And so we recognize that, and we recognize light to be a good thing, and we go, "Oh, hey, God, you're the light. You're this cool shit that brightens up everything." And that's praising. That's a prayer in my opinion. Or another example for Catholics when they go Hail Mary, full of grace. I don't know the rest. I only know the Biggie version.
I thought you were about to spit the biggie version.
I don't want to be disrespectful,
Okay,
but
okay. Shout out to the Pope.
if we still had the Nazi Pope, I would have said it. But we got the real Pope. So that's you got to pay respect to the real Pope.
Right, right. That's fair. That's very fair. So in your opinion, what do you think? First off, do you think that what do you think the meaning of life is, if there is a meaning of life? And as someone who doesn't eat meat, do you think that there is a bit of a hypocrisy in regards to how human beings treat other animals?
So okay, I see what you did there. You try to connect those, but the, can you repeat the first one again? The first question.
I said, um, in your opinion, well, I said, do you think that that when it comes to human beings and how we look at animals, as someone who doesn't eat meat or anything, do you think that like do you think that the way in which we go about it is like what are your thoughts on it? Do you think it's bad? And like, do you think that us as human beings, the way that we perceive ourselves and how we look at other animals, like do you think that there's like a bit of a disconnect, like just through your faith and everything and what you believe, as far as
So
us and animals?
yeah, that's actually a good question. It leads to one of um, one method. There are different methods to get to God in Hinduism, and Hinduism people believe is one religion, but it's actually like a conglomerate of many religions in that region. And that's why we some people think we're polytheistic. We're actually monotheistic. We believe in one God, comes in many forms. I refer to the unborn God and that kinds of stuff. There's different philosophies, and probably when you and I used to talk about this stuff when we were younger, I believe in a certain philosophy, and now I've graduated to a different philosophy, I think. And I say graduated, but some people may say flip flop, but I'm not running for politics here, so that's, I think it's graduated, and what I mean by that is the philosophy I tend to lean towards nowadays is called Advaita Vedanta. Um, and Advaita Vedanta, it basically means the end or the summary of the Vedas. Advaita means without a second. It's singular, and not only is it singular, there is no other. Is the belief, and when you believe that, you really have to think about it. There is no other. We have this whole world. There's you, J. Rob. There's me, Mr. M. There's everyone else in the whole damn world, and we're saying there's only one thing. There is no other. It's interesting, right? And it's how do we look at it? Some look at it as, hey, where are these souls, and we're all connected to God, and so whether we're a rock, whether we're some cell floating around that's not aware of itself, whether we're a whole person that is aware, whether we're an animal that ends up getting eaten, or the cat that gets taken care of basically by all us humans and all these dogs and that kinds of stuff. Then we're essentially all the same when you think about it, right? Um, in Advaita Vedanta, it goes a little bit further. It goes, not only are the souls the same, we are literally the same. Nothing exists but God is what Advaita Vedanta is saying. There's nothing existing but God. Everything else is basically a trick.
Interesting. And like I think when I hear that, one thing that comes to mind that I think at times is, you know, one thing that makes sense to me as someone who's, very curious and like, skeptical when it comes to, religion as a whole. And like, I think, the one thing that I definitely, I think in my opinion, like, me personally, I believe in God, but like I sometimes, I guess, graduate, to use your term, as far as the way in which I conceive God. And I think that a lot of times I think that, when you look at, everything that encompasses this earth, I think that everything is God. Like, God is everything and then in anything. And I think one of the things about us as human beings that's interesting is that through our evolution, I feel like there has been this level of, I guess you could say, arrogance that we've attained, where, because of our inherent cognition and our ability to just, know who we are and be able to do things that other species can't, we look down upon them and we look at them not as our fellow, brethren in this planet, but as, our toys to basically do whatever it is that we want.
Yeah, and this is and you bring up the example of animals, and you say, hey, we're enslaving animals, we're torturing animals, we're eating animals, we're doing all these things with animals, we're doing experiments on them before we for medicine or makeup, even for before we even put it on ourselves and all this stuff. And it's a fair point. But we do this with people too. We're using each other. We're not considering each other equal. We're not trying to help each other. We're abusing each other. We're putting down each other. And some people may even say you see this in politics now, and we're telling other people that's how you live. You abuse each other. You don't you don't try to help each other anymore.
Right. Yeah, it's a problem and it's getting worse by the minute, I feel like. I feel like, there's always been a gap between, the haves and have-nots, but I think that that gap is getting worse and worse by the day. And I feel like it's one of those things where we're so divided, as a nation and as a, like globally too. But we're so distracted and like we're so, at each other's throats, like when it comes to, things that we should be uniting, that it makes it so that the people who have the most just get more while we're at each other's throats. Uh, Perfect segue, I think, for us to really talk about, in your opinion, some of the things that you want to bring up in regards to the, Brahmin priest community, that, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like, what is it like in that particular community? Like, are there things that you see that bring out the best in humanity? Are there things that you see that, where like things are being brought out that are the worst as well, maybe?
So that's a good question. And people must have noticed you're calling me Mr. M. So that's I'll address that now as well. Part of the reason why I prefer to be called Mr. M instead of my real name is I'm part of this community of Brahmins, Brahmin priests, and I prefer to have real talk with Julian here. So I want to give my honest opinion with questions like that, and uh, I don't want to I don't want to lie to the guy. Yeah, yeah. So and I don't want to lie to you guys. So that's why I prefer not to have my identity revealed. Also, I like to talk freely and talk a lot of shit and swear a lot. And the old people get up in arms when you do. That's why. But to answer the question directly, yes, there are things in the Brahmin community that where you see both sides. You'll see, and we spoke about this. We need to help each other. You'll see Brahmins, you'll see Brahmin priests in my community. They'll try to help each other. They'll try to create a community, and when we say create a community, we mean it's almost like a network. We went to school together. We went to high school together. Imagine if everyone saw each other every day. And this is the big appeal of church, right? You'll go to church. Everyone sees each other at least every week, and they're bonded by a faith. Even if they don't really truly believe in that faith, at least there's a community there. There's a sense of community. There's a sense of purpose in life. which is interesting because I was listening to a work podcast, and it was talking about how uh, people used to go to church, and now with the rise of atheism and agnosticism, I don't know how you say that, being
Yeah, that
agnostic,
sounds right.
being agnostic, then you see that people stop going to church, people stop having a community like that, and so they look to work to provide them a community, a meaning for life, and give them money, which is that's a lot to put on work, guys. But and we most people end up being depressed and unfulfilled, and that's kind of part of it. I think that's a good part of the pundit society. I'll say there are other good parts. We try to help people. Some people are convinced, hey, there's things like being possessed. Some people like both the pundit and the person is convinced they're possessed, or the person is possessed, and so they're trying to help them. Some people are convinced that their deceased relatives are coming to them in dreams, and they want certain rituals to be done. Some people are convinced that if they don't fast at a certain times, something is wrong. Some people are convinced that if they don't do certain rituals, that their business isn't going to go right. I'll tell you a quick story. My brother and I, we would do puja. It's basically a ritual for ritualistic prayer for this guy, and he would want to do this ritualistic prayer where the benefit is if you don't have any kids, you will get kids. If you don't have a job, you will get job. If you have a business, it will go well. If and so forth and so forth. If you have no wife, you'll get a wife. All that kinds of stuff. And there's a specific puja. It's called. It's been prayed to this Devi, this goddess, called Bandi or Vindeshwari. So this Vindeshwari puja, he'll always want to do every year. The guy has a kid one time, and when he gets the kid, we're doing the naming ceremony for the kid. So we went over there to do a naming ceremony instead of the Vindeshwari puja, the special ritual for the goddess. And he's holding the kid in his hand. He's so happy. And then he looks at my brother and me and he goes, "But Pundit, when are we going to do the Vindeshwari puja?" He has the kid, he has the wife, he has a business. He's stuck on this shit. He's going, "When are we going to do this Vindeshwari puja? You got to do it."
Wow, he sounds like quite the character.
That's how a lot of people are, and it at least appeases the mind. I think it gives a purpose. It does that. Now the downside is you'll see a lot of stuff like uh, sometimes you not all the time, but depending on what group of people you're around, you'll see this stuff like, hey, we don't want these people pretending to be pundits. We don't, and this is where the caste system comes in. And this is where a debate comes in because different, even religious texts say different things on what is a Brahmin. Um, well, there are some religious texts that say a Brahmin is a person who's born from a Brahmin mother and or father. Some texts say it must be a Brahmin father. Some texts say it must be a Brahmin mother and father. If it's not, then you create a whole new caste. Some texts say that it must be a person who behaves like a Brahmin. And some texts say that it must be a person that knows the Brahman. The Brahman is this unborn God we're talking about, or knows the true God. That is the Brahmin, and the group I'm a part of, we like to say we believe in all three, so that just to be safe. You have all three in one.
Interesting. And like, do you think that there within the group is like any, hierarchical tension where like, some people think that they are like more, worthy than others or anything like that?
Um, sure. There's always that. That they're more worthy. They're more qualified to do certain things. That 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 certain people don't know stuff. That certain people just saying stupid stuff for no reason. That people are taking their personal agendas and try to push it on the group. You know the same thing with these types of groups. um, I think the thing that irks me is that I don't believe that all three are Brahmin. I believe only one of the version is a Brahmin. I believe the one who knows Brahman, who knows God in truth, is the Brahmin, and the that is true. And but they're trying to push and say all this other stuff like, hey, a Swami who's dedicated his whole life and given up his whole life and learned so many things more than we've learned because we have to make money and stuff. So we go on to do other things, and a Swami strictly just learns, or a monk, let's say, strictly just learned to say a monk is he's not a Brahmin, so he's not as worthy as us to do certain things, or whatever the case is. I find that as a problem.
And would you say that the monk like knows what you're saying? Like the monk meets the prerequisite that you have outlined, do you think?
I think a monk, a true monk, um, uh, he either seeks God or knows God. So I say Brahman, but I mean God. So he knows God or he seeks God. And when I say know God, I mean there is no doubt whatsoever in the mind that God is in and around everyone. There's a certain text that says those that think they know God don't really know Him, and those that know that they can't know God, they know Him in truth.
So in your opinion then, hmm, if you had a magic wand and you could make anything come to fruition as far as the world goes to make it a better place, what would be the thing that you would do that you think would kind of make the world a better place than it is now?
Um, I mean, we're jumping back and forth between topics because when we talk about God, there's this. So in Christianity, there's a belief of a God and the devil, right? So it's like a polar opposite going on. In Hinduism, there isn't that. There is God, and then there's God. There's in the philosophy of only God exists is there. But I kind of alluded to some of it. There's God, and then there's you being tricked. There's this illusion all around. We call it Maya. So you go from we go from talking about God to go talking about the illusion now, which is the world. So yeah, let's talk about the world. So if I could change this illusion, what would I do? I mean, to make the whole world better, it doesn't really matter. Whatever you do, I'm of the belief, and this is not a religious belief. This is just my philosophical belief. I'm of the belief whatever you do, it's gonna autocorrect itself, just naturally. You
Interesting. So one thing that you said that I find really fascinating is that, first and foremost, that, God, there's God and there's only God. Like that's
yeah,
all that there is, and
yeah,
that basically everything else is an illusion, and that all that we have here is an illusion.
yeah,
So, are you alluding to I don't think you are, but like I love this topic. Are
yeah.
you alluding to somewhat, but not necessarily that we're almost in I guess in a metaphorical sense, a simulation.
So it's interesting you say that. I like to tell stories. You know me, Doug. So I went to do a ritual for the same ritual, a ritualistic prayer for my nephew, and we're all family. So I go there for my nephew. His cousins are there and everything, and so we finish the prayer and everything, and we're all just sitting and eating, and then the topic comes up what we think God is, right? And we go around in a circle. We're all saying different things, and I started this conversation to show my nephew, watch, everyone is going to say something. We haven't influenced them to say anything, and whatever they say, it's going to be a different aspect of Hinduism, a different philosophy in Hinduism. I'm trying to teach him the different philosophies, and so I've explained to him, I've defined the different philosophies, but now I'm showing him, you all you have to do is ask random people what they think God is, and then it'll be a different philosophy in Hinduism. And so we go around. Some say that they think God is basically an energy, and the energy is there, and when you pray to it, it'll give you stuff. Some like a lot of people believe that, I think. So some people go, oh, like I'm saying, there's only God. There's nothing else. And one of his cousins goes. I ask him, and the dude looks like he's in a trance, and like he just starts pacing back and forth. I'm like, dude, you all right? He goes, God is God. I'm like, what? He's like, God is God. Like, I never, like, his eyes was glossed over and everything. He goes, like, he means like God is separate from everyone else. There's nothing like it, right? So, all right, he's pretty fucking, spooking everybody the fuck out. But get the message. And then I go to another one of his cousins, and the dude just goes, simulation. So, okay, yes, you could say simulation. Is it a simulation? I won't describe it as that. I could tell you how I would describe it if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
Okay. So imagine you remember when you were a kid, right? You had action figures, right?
Yep, absolutely.
All right. What was two action figures you would play with?
I can distinctly remember having a Wolverine one that I
Uh-huh.
really, really liked. And I
Uh-huh.
can also remember having a Power Rangers one whose head, I don't know if you remember the action figures where like you had the swivel thing
Yeah,
where you
yeah,
can have it with the mask on or the
yeah,
mask off. I
yeah.
had one of those, yeah.
Which Power Ranger? The green one, the red one?
Oh hell no, the red one, man.
I was a green Power Ranger fan. Oh my god.
Oh man, fuck Tommy.
Fuck Tommy, bro. I used to call myself Tommy.
Okay, so what about the action figures?
All right. So I, um, let's imagine little J Rob is playing with his action figures. And he has Wolverine in one hand, and he has the Red Ranger in the other hand. And while he's playing, he's pretending he's Wolverine, and he's pretending he's the Red Ranger. And one hand always is Wolverine. That's true, right? He's never the Red Ranger. He's not going to switch because you're holding Wolverine. And then the other hand is always the Red Ranger. He's not going to switch. He's always the Red Ranger. And in fact, what happens is you could interact with them and make them talk to each other and do things simultaneously as you're playing with them, right? This is you
Yeah,
as a kid.
right, yeah.
And so imagine now we had a psychotic break while we were playing. You had a psychotic break. You mentally forgot while you were pretending to be Wolverine that you were J Rob. You were lost. You think you're just Wolverine. You think you're Wolverine just dancing around and playing.
Okay.
Then you're also the Red Power Ranger, and you're mentally lost here too. You think you're just the Red Power Ranger and you're just playing.
All right.
right? So
Right.
so this is like me and you now. We both think we're separate, but we're actually the same.
Wow.
So the if you as Wolverine realize that you're not Wolverine, you're actually being held by a hand, and this hand's attached to something, and you have a greater entity, and you break the mental handicap that you have, and you realize you're J. Rob. What's interesting is the Red Power Ranger doesn't realize that. He still
Mm.
has the mental handicap. Only Wolverine has realized he's J. Rob. And the Red Power Ranger continues to believe he's the Red Power Ranger.
Wow. I think we may be converting some people right now.
So what's happening now is you may call it illusion. We may call it illusion. We may call it simulation. We could call it whatever the hell we want. We could put it, we're only using two as an example because it's easy because we have two hands and all this stuff. And we have both played with two things at the same time. Now imagine God just did the same thing, just like he just made up in his head, or her, or whatever entity. This is why I say Brahman. This is why we say unborn God, because whatever entity just made up all these things, and then when it made it up, it became lost. And the religious texts I have, they talk about the all these people as karta actors. They're acting like the thing that they are, but they're not. So we're all lost here. And
Hmm.
what's the meaning in life? Who the fuck cares?
So do you think that, like, with you saying that, then, like, does the concept of good and evil not even, like, is it just not true? Is it just, something that we've made up then?
Maybe the one sect of Hinduism is called the Vaishnavas, and they believe that that there's this god Vishnu, and he basically he sustains everything, and they believe that the whole world actually is the dream of Vishnu. And when you ask them why they are suffering, this is a common question in everybody's life. No matter what you try to preach to people, they'll be like, so why is it that my daughter got raped? Why is it that I have no money? Why is it that I'm getting treated bad? God just hates me, right? That's why. No, you're tricked. You think you're that person going through all this shit. It's just a play. The Vaishnavas say it is the play of God, and He does whatever the fuck He wants to do. So you're just in it. So act the damn role and shut the fuck up.
Wow. Well, on that note, uh for, like, is there any hope then for, like, people who are, to your point, in predicaments where the outlook of their life looks hopeless? Like, is the grass greener on the other side? Like, what happens when you die? Like, is there anything after that in your opinion?
So, dude. So the different things when I'll try to connect them, different things that I know in a bow, kind of, right? Um, when so in Hinduism they say different things. One thing is when you die, there will be this whole story about how you die and you go to different places and stuff. How you'll die, you'll get taken by, you'll see a light. Everyone says they see a light. It's amazing, right? They'll say
Yeah. And that
you.
goes back to God again, right? And you talked about the light.
Well, some people say that, right? But
Yeah.
this book in particular says you see a light and you think it's God, but it's actually the point of a weapon coming for you, and they grab you.
What?
Yeah, and they grab you and they pull you out of your body if you want to stay there, if you keep trying to stay in your body, and they'll take you on this journey. You're going to meet the King of Hell. He is the God of justice, and he goes and you go to this journey to meet him, and there's this whole long thing, and these people who come for you, they're his servants, and the servants of the King of Hell, the God of justice, come for you, drag you to hell, to go get judged, and when you get judged, then you'll get determined what's going on. And there is, I've heard stories about that my grandma has told me in Trinidad, how people would go to sleep and or be near death and like get a heart attack or something, and they'll wake up and they'll say that they saw people coming for them and they dragged them and that kind of stuff, and they took them to some place, and then they let them go for some reason, and all this.
Interesting. I just want to stop you for 1 second because before we go on to the next topic, I just want to get some clarity on something because you know before you were saying how basically we're all actors, right?
Yeah,
How we basically are put to I don't want to necessarily say that we're God's plaything, but sure,
yeah,
let's say we're God's plaything.
yeah.
So if we're God's plaything and we're here to, basically play the role in which we were given,
Hmm.
um, why would there be punishment for us playing that role then? Like, why would,
Ah,
you know what I
that's the
mean?
question. Now you're asking the right question. So the that's a good question. So what I've mentioned is a different philosophy from that philosophy that I've told you. And so to wrap up that philosophy that I told you, I'll say it like this: when you die, if you truly believe that there's only one God, if you know it in truth, and this is what we're talking about, knowing God. If you know God, you know it in truth that there's nothing else, then what will happen is you will just merge into that when you die. You'll realize you're this God, and permeated everywhere. You're in everywhere, and you're in everything. You're all around, and you're this one entity, and that's what you'll be. Now, if you identify with the body, now what does that mean? If you think you're J Rob, correct? I think I'm Mr. M, right?
Right.
So when we die, what's going to happen? We're going to believe that we are dead. The body is dead. We're going to look at ourselves and be like, "What the fuck, man? I'm looking at myself just fucking on the floor, bleeding, or whatever it is." I'm assuming somebody shot you, J Rob.
Damn. Wow.
I mean, we're from a certain part of New York, right?
Yeah. Brooklyn is kind of crazy right now. So,
So you're on the floor bleeding. You're looking at yourself, and you're like, "Damn, why do you see yourself? Why you have to go through all this? You can't accept that the body is gone. You can't accept that you're not the body. So you go making up. Oh, I'll pretend. I'll pretend I'm standing in a corner and looking at the body to try and accept that I'm dead. I can't accept I'm dead. So I need now people dragging me over for my psyche to believe I'm dead. I need to get punished for my psyche to believe that everything's resolved. We need to resolve stuff in our psyche. So this is like it's like in our head almost. It's like stuff is still going on with you while you're dying, right before you're dead, or whatever you want to say. And so you can't accept the fact that you're gone, that you're everywhere and everything. So you start to have this experience and this journey to this acceptance. And so far, some people go so far to experience heaven and hell, and then come back again and experience another body, and they've experiencing another body, and then they get caught up in this other body, and then when that body dies, they go, "Oh, I can't believe that I'm dead." All over again. They forget the previous body. They have the new body. They're dead in this new body, and then the whole thing starts repeating over and over again until someday, somewhere, they'll escape. That cycle is called samsara, the cycle of birth and death. And someday, somewhere, they'll escape. And when there's this one God, this one entity everywhere, the Wolverine must accept that he's J Rob. If he doesn't do that, then all the toys will be destroyed, and then he'll come back over and over again as Buzz Lightyear, as Cyclops or whoever the hell, right?
So basically, you and I then, like to your logic, like we lived another time and did not accept that we were part of this greater entity, and that's why we're here now, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And does this apply to animals, like to other creatures too?
yeah. Why do we're all one, J-Rod? We're all one thing.
Well, I guess, and maybe this is just my ignorance of not um understanding that we don't fully understand like what goes on in the mind of, like, for instance, my two cats. Like, do they think, like, do they, because like it just seems as if other animals are more instinctual and they act rather on instantaneous feelings rather than, us, where we are a bit more methodical and, more deliberate with the things in which we do. So like I guess because of that, think that we would be able to do that, but I'm not sure if they would.
So it's interesting you bring that up. Again, my religion talks about this. It disproves who you think you are. You can't be the body, because you'll look in the mirror sometimes and you'll see somebody and you'll be like, who the fuck is that? You don't even remember changing, right?
Right.
I don't remember that my hair is falling out. I don't remember that I got gray hair now. I didn't even know that. I look in the mirror and I'd be like, who's that fat guy, right? So if I don't even know what I look like, I can't be this damn body then, right?
Right.
Okay, so you're with me here, and you could argue the differently, but you agree with me here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, are you the mind then?
Am I, like, is the mind me? Like,
Yeah.
I think so.
So what if you go brain dead, or and you're a vegetable? Are you gone?
No, you're still there.
So then you can't be the mind.
Well, actually, this is a good topic, and we should dive deeper into this another round of the podcast, because
Yeah.
I'm actually reading the second book of Sapiens, like the update of it, Homo
Yep.
Deus, where like he's talking about the future of humanity and just like
Yep.
how humans perceive each other and perceive ourselves and everything. And one thing that they talk about is how throughout time, when you look at how we've been able to separate ourselves from animals, like the
Hmm.
first thing that the scientists did was say, oh well, man is different from all other species because we have a soul. Like that was the thing, that we have a
Hmm.
soul. And then we elevated it to the mind, and how, oh well, we have a mind where, we can, do and think and, like, have very subjective thoughts, while to our knowledge other animals can't, and like all these other things. But he was saying how we don't necessarily have definitive, concrete evidence that the mind is truly something that, exists outside of, the rest of us, where like there's like the functionality of the brain and how it operates, and how there's just like this very distinct portion of it where we're able to, like, have a conscience and all these other things, and that's somewhat separate. So I find that interesting.
Yeah. That that's pretty interesting. But the problem is, when you come from a scientific perspective, it comes from a different point of view. I'm not saying one is right and one is wrong. And everyone's going to be like, oh, of course science is right. It just comes from a different point of view. The point of view of science is objectivity. So it starts off as being objective, that you take yourself out of it, and then you begin to observe the things around you, right?
Right.
And that's science. In at least my religion, it comes from a point of subjectivity. Who are you? You can't be the body because you don't experience this stuff. You can't be the mind because you don't experience that stuff. You can't be this other stuff because you don't you can't be that. We separate the mind and intellect in Hindu philosophy. The mind is the thing that runs wild. The intellect is the thing that makes decisions. You can't be the intellect because whatever the hell else, right? And you go on and on and on, where you end up at in Hindu philosophy by chasing subjectivity, not objectivity, in the science point of view, is that you must be something else. And what they say something else is, people argue about that. But you could see that there is this thing, it's called consciousness, and it's always there. The whether you're a vegetable, you're conscious. And I'm not talking about awareness, like you know what's going on. I'm talking about there's consciousness. You could call it whatever you want. And you mentioned something of a soul. We have a soul, and that's a that's a Western view that we have a soul. In Hindu philosophy, the soul has a body, and the soul will discard a body, just like will it says in one of our religious sects, just like a person will take off worn off clothes and put on new ones. The soul will discard a old body and take a new one. So it's a different philosophy.
Okay, before we move on to the next topic, one thing I just want to throw in, people who are balling right now, like people like
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos, was
Uh-huh.
he like a bad motherfucker in his other life? And like, he like, God was just like, you know what? I'm gonna give you the illest role possible. Like what's going on there?
What? When you say bad motherfucker, you mean like a good motherfucker?
Like a good motherfucker. Yeah, I didn't mean a bad motherfucker like he was bad. I mean like he was a bad motherfucker. Like he
like
just
he
like
was
did
shot bad.
everything right. He did everything right, and now he came back and he was given it all, but like he forgot who he was, and he basically he squandered the opportunity that he had.
So they're again, this is different philosophies. You're speaking from a philosophy that God is watching you and giving you things, right? And you're going. God is going. Oh yeah, you did good, man. Here's this other thing. Pat in the
Well,
back.
okay. I'm not necessarily saying that he's giving you things. I'm just using the logic that you applied, that we're actors given a role.
Uh
So
huh.
all I'm merely saying, because like if we're being subjective, if I'm homeless, I'm gonna be like, man, God gave me a shitty role based off of your logic. And if I'm Jeff Bezos and I'm thinking take your logic, I'm like, wow, like God gave me the best role ever. I'm rich, bitch.
So
So
we've alluded to some of this, right? We were given a role, yes, but we also recycled bodies. So by recycling bodies, we've attained this thing called karma. And some say karma is action. By reincarnating, by attaining multiple bodies, you've done many actions that you could never repay for in the same body, and so you come to a new one to repay for it, whether it's good things or bad things. The actions are. So yeah, he could have been a bad motherfucker and done mad good shit, and yeah, now he's just balling like a motherfucker.
Okay.
And then the homeless guy could have been a bad motherfucker, like not shaft bad, like bad, and now he's homeless, right? So and I kind of don't like saying this stuff because it leads to us being not non-empathetic towards people,
Right.
and you'll see that in an Indian community, in Hindu community. Sometimes they'll be like, oh well, he earned that shit, whether this life or the last life, so I don't give a fuck. so
Right. No,
uh,
yeah. And yeah, we're not condoning that whatsoever. Like, you know, look at the present and, if someone's down on their luck, like it's not something that you should just be like, you deserve that.
yeah, and but yeah, that's one way of looking at it. However, another way of looking at it is it doesn't matter what my role is. It doesn't matter if I'm homeless. The if this is the play, I'll play the play. I'm the actor, but you don't know the lines. You don't know the script, right? So what does
Right.
that mean? You have the illusion of free will. So there's stuff you could do. However, there is there's not always opportunities for you, right? And that's where people turn to religion to go, hey, God help me out, right? And people help me out, and I get both sides of that.
That's fascinating. Now, moving on to a completely different topic, let's talk about the debates. What were your
Great
thoughts?
segue, J. Rob.
Great segue. I know. I'm killing the podcast game over here with segues. I know. So yeah, did you watch it? What did you think? What are like? Let the audience know about some certain family members, what they may have thought about it.
So I'll say this: I would not watch that shit if it wasn't for you, motherfucker. Oh my God, man! That's I personally like to stay out of politics, and the reason, presidential politics at least, and the reason for that is there's nothing I could effectively change, and people will go, hey, you could do whatever, you could change. There are certain states that always vote the same. For example, J. Rob, we grew up in New York. I believe, now don't quote me on this shit. This is off my brain, so forgive me if I get this wrong. I believe New York has always voted Democrat. I think only Nixon was the last Republican that won New York, and that was when he had Watergate or some shit. Um, and again, don't quote me on that one, but it's a really fucking long time since New York did not vote Democrat. You could be the fucking devil saying you're gonna burn people on pitchforks and shit. As long as you call yourself a Democrat, you're gonna get fucking elected in New York. So it doesn't matter what you vote for in presidency. So I don't like watching debates. I don't like paying attention to that shit. In fact, I like technology, and I go to my phone and I'll be like, I don't want to see this shit. But because of you, I looked at the debates, and it was entertaining as fuck, man. That shit was like I don't know. That was like drama or some shit, dude. That was like a press conference. It was like a UFC or boxing press conference, man. It was like
So who do you first off, do you think anybody won?
no one win. All right, so first of all, let's stop calling it a fucking debate. You're not debate. A debate is like that length for one topic, and we're not doing that. So it ain't a debate, right? So they're not
No,
really
yeah.
debating.
It's you can't have a sustainable conversation about anything like summarizing it in 2 minutes.
Yeah. What the hell are you gonna? You
Let
just
alone things that are like as serious as what they're talking about.
yeah. Oh, you get 2 minutes to say this. You get 2 minutes to say that. Then you get a 2 minute rebuttal each. So the person that wants to talk over the other person the most will get heard.
Yeah.
It's a stupid format. It's not a debate, but what it is a presentation of views, and it gets to tell you. It gives a person the chance to see 2 points of view, and then make a decision on who they want to vote for based on that. So with the presentation, no one wins a presentation. You could have a bad presentation or a good presentation. And if we want to say a person had a bad presentation, then it depends on what you mean, right? Did they get the message across? I don't know.
Right. So it sounds like from what you're saying, well, first off, are you not going to vote?
I will vote.
You will vote.
I will vote. I but I'll say it doesn't matter who I vote for in president. What matters, guys, is who you vote for in local government. Local government is where it
Amen.
matters.
Amen.
This is where your vote really fucking matters. Like you could win by one vote and stuff. Don't vote down the line. Look up who has who believes in the shit that you care about. Like I said, I'm big in tech. I want the right to repair my fucking phone, dude. Apple don't want me to repair my phone. What kind of fucking shit is that? I can't repair my phone. I can't open up my phone and repair it. What's gonna happen to me?
Well, yeah, big tech. That's it's because they want to control. They want to
They could
control you.
suck my dick. I'm gonna open my phone right fucking now.
Wow.
Like,
Okay. I don't want Tim Cook coming after us here. Okay. What did your brother think? And
okay, so I'll say a couple things, right? When I was in high school, I don't know if you remember this. I was a Republican, and I still identify as a Republican in some points of view. I lean more independent, and because both sides are pretty stupid and a lot of stuff.
yeah, I agree on the both sides being stupid.
Um, and but never Trump Republican. I'll tell you that was never that. But my brother, though, this motherfucker, all of a sudden became a Trump supporter, and he's a Trump Republican. And my fucking god, dude, this dude has a "Make America Great Again" hat. He has
Wow.
he will go in the temple and argue with people about Trump being right. Stuff like that. So I see this debate, and there's some good shit that happened on the in the debate. But I text him and I'm like, dude, what'd you think of the debate? I'm gonna pull up our messages.
Yeah, I'm very curious. So was he comfortable with everything that Trump said?
Hold up. I didn't even ask him that because I don't like delving too deep. Otherwise, this dude gets really heated. He's a Trump supporter, guys. I was like, "You see the debate?" He was like, "Yeah, it was crap." And then he was like, "But Donald still won," which I don't understand how anybody wins. But
So
okay,
okay, because one thing that I always say, because I think as I've gotten older and as I've really matured and really looked at actual policy and like really critically thought as far as legislation and like what the agenda of parties are, I definitely identify more independent. I feel like I definitely I feel a bit torn. I think I'm like a true independent because like I see things on both sides that I like shake my head at, but I also see things that are said on both sides that I agree with, which I think is a good thing. I
yeah,
don't like the whole two-party system thing. Like
yeah, it's
I
stupid.
can like honestly say it's like, I've heard some Republicans say things where I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I've heard some Democrats say things that I'm like, yeah, I can get down with that. And then on both sides, I can also say I've heard them say things where I'm like, yeah, you're kind of fucking crazy. That is
Yeah,
just terrible.
yeah.
Um, so that being said, do you think that, like with your brother, like saying that, he thought that Trump won and everything, like, is he comfortable with the things that Trump says that are, one can argue is just outright racist, like he did in the debate?
Dude, you don't know this, but brown folks is racist.
Please elaborate.
We all think white people are racist and they're the only people that are racist, bro. Brown folks is racist. I've heard brown people say more racist shit than I've heard white people say.
Is it like about a particular race, or is it kind of just all over?
It's all over, but people usually react to what's near them, right?
Right.
And so they'll start reacting. If in the West Indies, the where the British colonized India and took Indian people to the West Indies. There were Indian indentured workers and black slaves. When the British said it's not cool to colonize places anymore, they pieced out and left land to the indentured workers, and they said fuck you to the slaves in some cases, right? And so what happened is this racial tension between brown folks and black folks, and so in some cases, brown folks is just racist to black folks. And I'm sure it's the other way around as well. Though I can't comment on that.
Interesting. And do you think so would you say that your brother is one of those people, or do you think that he is just kind of turns his eye to it and is aware of it, but doesn't actively participates?
Real talk.
Absolutely.
I think he just wants lower taxes. So he's like, I'm all for Trump, bro. And then he'll defend anything Trump says just so he gets lower taxes. What's interesting, though, is now he has a house. So Trump lowered the income tax, but increased the property tax in some cases. So that's well, I say Trump, but that's a statewide thing too. So, but you know what I mean,
right?
There's only so much you could do. But yeah, he said he gets a certain amount more in his paycheck after this motherfucker was elected, so he's happy.
Right, and I think that's just how it works in general. I feel like in politics, and how the world works, when the economy is doing well, first and foremost, one thing that's just a statistical fact, when you have a nation that, is, diverse, and especially as diverse as ours, but just in general that has diversity, whether it be racial or, religious, when things are going well economically, people are more willing to work and just be accepting of people who are different from them versus when things are bad, and I think that with Trump, a lot of people, and I'm not necessarily condoning that they voted for him or anything, but I definitely think that it was more from an economic standpoint that they were looking at it. And I think that there are a lot of people who do that, where they just look at it as, okay, how is my life either going to become better or worse based off this person? And I think they're a little less worried about the actual, morals, the moral compass of that particular individual. I think that the overwhelming majority of people don't really care about that.
Yeah, you're right. And we started off talking about God, and we're I'm saying this idea that people are acting, and I think that's the case now. Even with my brother, he just wants lower taxes, so he's going to act like a Trump Republican. So that's
Right.
and you'll see the differences when like you said, now that people lose their job and whatnot. Yeah, you see a lot of differences, but you see what's the same too. I think that there's both sides to that. We're all losing our jobs. It's not Democrats losing their job only. It's both sides losing their job. You know what I mean.
No, yeah.
That everyone's quarantining at home. Everyone is getting COVID. Not everybody's wearing a mask though, but that's
they are definitely not. So I think a great way to end this is, well, first and foremost, just knowing that we're all actors, like you were saying. I think you could make the argument that Trump is like a comedic actor, because man, he is special. But yeah, so if we're all actors, so basically, applying that logic, it's God has grabbed that action figure and is like, I'm gonna fucking go nuts. But I guess, would you make the argument that everything is done you know, for a reason, and that, you know, maybe we just don't fully understand what that reason is now, but like this greater entity has the foresight and understands in the grander scheme of things what the outcome at the end will be.
I think I think people want to believe that, but imagine yourself the only person made up everything. You ain't doing shit for a reason.
So you think that God is bored and is just like, let me fuck shit up? Well, because like, okay, one thing that this really makes me think of, are you familiar with The Watchmen?
Hmm.
So some like I was because there was an HBO series of The Watchmen, which was great. Anyone who hasn't watched it, highly recommend watching it. It was phenomenal.
If you could afford HBO.
If you could, well, or if you know somebody with HBO, just you know what to do. Um, but one of the things that they highlight in the show is how, because Dr. Manhattan is like this godlike blue man with all like who's omnipotent, like he can do anything, and he basically creates a planet. Like he creates a planet like just out of nothing. Like he creates a planet, he creates people, all these things that he just creates by just like thinking it and like doing it, and he creates it, and they're all part of him. They're all part of him, and they're all doing things. But it's like while they are, in their minds, individuals, they're connected to him. They are him. So I looked at like I like while I'm watching that, and I was thinking this like last year when I was watching it. I'm like, that kind of feels pretty accurate to like how I could see, our world being created, and how there's just like this omnipotent entity that created all of this, and like we're connected, and we're basically a carbon copy of that entity, and have been given this thing that we perceive as free will, but it's not necessarily true.
Yeah, basically. And again, it's all different philosophies. I'm spewing a philosophy of one God playing, basically imagining. We're saying playing like action figures. It's not a true analogy, but it's whatever's going on. It's the play of God.
Right.
The others believe that it was made for a reason, like you were saying, and we need to do something and escape this. And yes, there's this grander scheme going on. Um, but yeah, maybe, who knows?
Well, I feel like, and I think, this is a great way. Well, well, we can end it on a lighter note after this, but I feel like, the the one that you said prior makes more sense to me, where
Uh-huh.
it's like, there really is no meaning, and it's like we're just a bunch of playthings, and like
Yeah.
there is nothing deeper than that. I feel like we want to apply that there is something deeper, because it just makes us feel better, and it makes us feel, nonsensically, I guess, as if there's purpose because of that.
Hmm.
But like,
I'll, I'll say this. What you're saying though is separate from what I'm saying. You're saying there's a God and he's controlling us and we're his playthings. I'm saying there's a God pretending to be the playthings.
wow, that's pretty deep.
So we aren't playthings, man. We're all the same. We're the one God.
So we are God.
Yeah.
Wow. So basically, when you're in the Bronx on the 6th train going towards Pelham Parkway, and there's a man draped in a robe,
Yep.
bathed in 30 years, and is talking about, I am God. He's right.
He ain't wrong. I don't know if he's right, but he's not right in the true sense. He's not everything and everything. But yeah, he's right in some sense.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
then I think the last thing that I want to get your thoughts on. So, how we keep harping on the whole point of, we're actors
Yeah.
and everything. So is Kanye kind of not crazy then when he says some of the shit that he says? Is Kanye like secretly
He's a
knower
monk,
of all
dude.
truths?
Dude's a monk. Yeezy is Yeezy for president, bro. He's on some next level.
Remember he said something like he was like slavery was a choice? He's
That
just
dude's insane.
he's just practicing Hinduism, man.
Dude, I feel like I'm talking to my nephew here. Maybe.
Maybe. You guys have to tune into the next time Mr. M comes on. Mr. M, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a pleasure. This is our very first episode. Thank you so much for, helping us pop that first episode cherry. This was a treat. Thank you so much.
Thanks, J. Rob. I'll go wipe the blood off.
Oh my God, stop.